Welcome to the official Topic Talk. Please like, share and subscribe.
Audio Jungle.
Steve, I don't know if you've been watching YouTube lately, but quite recently there was a masked bloke from Liverpool went up to a little town of Montrose with another fella's face that I haven't seen before that has a channel by the name of Exposure TV with another fella who does show his face that likes to ride on buggies and jet skis. And they called to a fella's door to ask them to come out to play with 55 pages of paper. What's your reaction to that shit?
I mean, I've got to take my hat off to him. As they say, actions speak louder than words, and I take my hat off to all three of them. So Exposure, big up, sir. Dodgy Dave, and my good buddy, MSB, Motorsports and Buggies. To think they made that trip all the way down. And I do believe they had a big, massive speaker on the top of the car.
Fuck.
And, and to think that there was a car going around preaching, join Labour, join the Conservative. No. there's an aunt in your town. I mean, that's a classic. It was a classic because normally you expect, just before the general election, you get the cars going round with a tannoy and vote Labour, but instead, they definitely brought attention, to that town.
Do you think it's right or wrong? Do you think it's right or wrong?
I think it's right. I mean, let's look at it.
There's a bit of backfeed there for me.
Is that any quieter for you?
Let me see. No, it's still.
I just took my earphones off.
I can still hear myself.
Nothing else on here.
Hello. That's me now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, there's no backfeed now. That's great. So sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it over the past 3 years of the hard work of Mr. Humble, and quite a few others, doing their online thing, and the said person, is just sat back and laughing. But like I said to you in one of our previous ones, what more can be done, other than giving the awareness online, considering he's got like 10k subs. So the online stuff was working, but it needed something more. And what a classic way to bring awareness to somebody's town centre. I mean, that tannoy going around, that was the first classic, I thought, fucking...
Well, let me play devil's advocate for 2 seconds here, right? Because I have to, because it can't always be, we'll have to ask questions. Why not do that for Mark Feely? Why not do that for other sort of people out there that have been outed as predators? Why just him? Why do you think just him?
Well, maybe that's the way forward now, for all the others that will be uncovered, that they're 100% sure on. Why not? That's the way forward. That's basically a trial and error campaign, I think. It's been trialed, it's worked. So maybe it's all right for politicians to go around shouting, come and vote for me. So why not go around shouting, there's a horrible person in your town. Why not?
Very true. I support. What I support is the protection of children. I support the community being safer. I support family values. And what I find really strange is, and I don't know if people have picked up on this, what is Dickie's connection to Montrose in the first place? Why is there a man just living in a random area of isn't it Scotland, just by
I don't know,
himself?
I think when he was living at his parents', I do believe, don't quote me on this, but I do believe there was a guy who owned a gym, who actually took him there to live, give him a place to stay. I think that's what takes him to Montrose. I mean, don't mark me on them words. I mean, but that is just something that I've heard. You know, it was a guy in the gym that offered him a place. And I mean, come on, that town Montrose needs a town crier. They've got one.
Mate, I always find it really strange for a bloke just to move into a place randomly by himself. Like if somebody done that round my way, I would be asking questions. What's the crack here, mate? You know, what's your story? Like, I would definitely introduce myself, but I suppose maybe Scotland and England could be a wee bit different. But I think people look. I have to always speak for the other side and ask the question, because I'm seeing a lot of comments, and this isn't my opinion. I'm just speaking. I'll give you my opinion first, right? So my opinion is that this all could have been wrapped up if Dickie had just went out and shown a subject access request like he did, and other people had to go and obtain that illegally. We all know that I support outing people that need to be outed like this, right? Now, the funny thing about it is that Dickie himself said, nobody's going to come and see me, and nobody's going to come to my door. That
was the magical words.
Yeah. So
nobody will come to his front
door.
Yeah. Well, actually, didn't he offer?
He offered,
didn't he? You know, he turned around and said, you know, I'm here, come to my door. He offered.
Not only did they come to his door, but they came to his door with his 55-page legitimate subject access request, and they came to his door with also Double D. I'm going to call him Double D, Dodgy Dave's subject access request. Now, this is what I don't get, and this is what people aren't realizing right now. Can I say 100% them guys weren't tooled up? No. But I would bet my life on it that those guys were not traveling with weapons, because if they had been stopped with weapons, they would have been thrown straight in.
The only thing they were tooled up with was the proper tools for the job. And that was 55 pieces of paper and a mobile phone or a
So for Dickie to say that they were tooled up is a complete lie. They came to his door with no weapons, because if he had seen weapons, the police would have arrested them on the spot. The police were there outside his front door, and they did, because Dickie rang the police like he's entitled to do. I'm not getting at him ringing the police. Some people may call that a grass. I wouldn't have done it personally. I would have just come out and proved my innocence. He says that he has the paperwork. He could have come out with his paperwork and says, look, Dodgy Dave, the paperwork you have is not correct. Here's the real paperwork. But he didn't. He didn't do that. What he done was he went and he made a video saying that these people were tooled up. So he went and he lied to his supporters because of his ego. Now, this is where he slipped up. You're going to slip up like this with a guy like me. This is it. Game over. Lights out. Night, night. I don't look. We all know what he is, Steve, right? That goes without saying, right? But what he's doing now is his ego. He couldn't take the fact that 3 men came to his door after he asked people to, after he doxed his own mother's address, after he basically said, come to my door. When they came to his door, he had to make up a lie to say that these people were tooled up to completely debunk this guy's lie. If they had been tooled up, Dickie would have had to have said that to the police. The police would have came over and arrested them guys on the spot for being tooled up. because all you have to say is the threat. These people came at me with a weapon. Dickie himself didn't even say that to the police. He just says he was being harassed, I believe. Because if he had said they came at me with a weapon, they would have searched them guys. The police didn't go anywhere near them after that incident. So that's how you can debunk that lie. So for any of the supporters that may be watching this, that was a lie. They did not come tooled up. He said that because of his ego. He wanted people to think, look, I couldn't have went out there because they were going to really harm me with weapons. That's not the truth. If he had came to that front door, I do believe that Dodgy Dave, Exposure, and Motorsports and Buggies probably would have had a civil conversation with him.
I mean, that was the whole point of the exercise, Ronan. He offered them to go down, and like he sat there, how he always does, thinking, "Oh, they're never gonna come to me." Well, he offered them to go down, and the reason why they went down, they wanted to recreate Roger Cook. I think Dave thought he was Roger Cook. And we all know the program, Roger Cook. He confronts people with the evidence and the facts. So they merely just went there to recreate the Roger Cook program. The only weapons they had was the right weapons, which was 55 pieces of paper and probably a camera, to record. Now, I believe that if Dickie would have come to the door, right, he could have resolved everything within half an hour.
100%.
Easy. I mean, I would have done that. I would have opened the door and gone out, see what they'd put into me, and then I put to them. Now,
mate, if somebody had
the door with his ACRO, match it against the ACRO that they already have, and within 30 minutes, that all would have been resolved. That would have been his best opportunity ever, to prove his innocence.
Mate, if somebody, just hypothetically speaking, if somebody came to my door and I was innocent and I went through a 3-year trolling campaign, right? They wouldn't have to be worried about being tooled up, because I would be going out there tooled up, and there's going to be bodies hitting the floor, like.
Well,
if that was lies, like.
Well, the other way to prove there is no weapons involved. I mean, they're not stupid. They're going around the streets with a big tannoy, making people aware of the people that are not on YouTube to see what's going on. They were telling the local community to the type of offender that's living in their community. Now, they wouldn't be shouting for a big tannoy if they got fucking tools on them. That's bringing attention, to their self. So that proves that they went there purely and utterly, A, to recreate Roger Cook, and B, to make awareness to the people in the community that don't use YouTube, that have never seen or heard anything about this guy. And I think they've done it in the best way possible. Again, with the humour that was involved, again, that proved no malice. And as for walking up and down the town with the billboard, I don't know if you've seen that part where DD had like a big billboard on the front of him and the back of him. I thought he thought he was in fucking America. Handing out leaflets, and this is the correct way to bring the awareness to the local community in Montrose. That basically don't use YouTube. And
people need to realize, right, how serious that is if you're wrong about that, right? So just looking into the law of things, if just for hypothetically speaking, right, Dodgy Dave, Motorsports, and Exposure TV were wrong about that, and they got it terribly wrong. They're looking. You think Alex Bell feels bad? They would be looking. So I do believe Paddy Conroy when he says somebody's getting a 10 stretch, but the fact that they're not wrong, the fact that Dickie calls the police just to get them away in the moment, but doesn't press charges, is an indication to me and here's what his supporters have to look out for, is an indication to me that he knows if he presses charges, that it all comes out in court, and all the court documents, the recordings, then can be brought out through the Freedom of Information Act. Like, whoever goes to court can get a copy of them and bring them all out. So they can turn around and say, well, we were doing this is because he is a convicted sex offender, because he's got a sexual conviction on his record. He does have that allegation. It legitimizes the subject access request. So all Dickie can really do is call the police to get them out of the road, but don't press any further charges. And he knows that. He knows if he actually presses charges in this, it actually legitimizes their cause. And this is what his supporters aren't realizing. And I'll say another thing too, right? All the money that man's collected from his supporters through bingo nights or whatever nights that he does, not bingo nights, but he does raffle nights, and he collects money for GoFundMe's. And then I heard something today that, that he said that it was loss of earnings. He kept GoFundMe money or something like that, money that he collected from his subscribers for loss of earnings. This motherfucker is on DLA. This guy's on the brew.
I mean,
do you know what I mean? Like,
for straight away, I mean, there's rules with that, isn't there? If you claim stuff like DLA, PIP, and that stuff,
you can still work, mate.
I'm sure there's somewhere you've got to declare your earnings, haven't you?
No, you don't. You don't have to. I don't think you don't have to declare in the north of Ireland here. You don't have to declare anything under 10 grand. I think it worked. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's a bit less than that. But
see, over it's different. I mean, no matter what, even if you earn 50p, you still got to declare that.
But I'll tell you one thing though, right? Fraudulent behavior is a part of this guy's MO, isn't it? How do you think he keeps gaining support? And you know what was really, really funny, right? Humble traced this guy by the bed sheets that he was in. Did you see that part? They found out where Dickie was because he was doing videos from under the bed sheets because he didn't want to give away his location. And in one of the videos that Dickie done, because they didn't know whether he was in Carlisle or Montrose, he done a video and he put the front facing camera around, and you seen his bed sheet behind him. And Humble knew, because of the color of the bed sheet, what part of the country he was in, whether it was Montrose or Carlisle. Isn't that fucked up?
I mean, that was the best opportunity that he's ever going to get to prove his innocence. All he had to do was just go to the front door, open it. There was no malice because they were just basically recreating the Roger Cook program. And well, in my eyes, he should have gone to the door, and within half an hour, that all would have been fucking sorted out. Do I think it's right what they've done? Yeah, because when we last spoke, I did mention, what more can be done. This is the more that could have been done, because at the moment there's only people online that are hearing and seeing what's going on. Now, for the likes of the community that don't use YouTube, well, they know now because, what better way to go around? Politicians do it and get away with it when they're going around for electing and getting people to vote for them. It's legal, because they thought of this idea. What better way to go around your own town and generally letting people know to the sort of person that they're living in amongst, giving out leaflets and walking up and down the high street with a billboard.
Do you not think, I have to play devil's advocate again, just because I'm asking the questions that I think some people that criticize this will ask. Do you not think making it a circus like that sort of doesn't do it justice? And if they had done it in a more professional way, that it would have been took more serious? Like, listen, wear whatever you want, but if you're running around the streets sort of with a balaclava and a sign, I understand the intention behind it. I do, because I know the situation very well. But if like, for instance, pedo hunters, they don't run around like that there. They just do this thing and then move on. Do you think, though, making it a circus doesn't actually help the situation?
I don't know. Why not? It makes it more classic, doesn't it? You've got a guy in a bright fucking pink balaclava. If he's going to go and commit a crime, he ain't going to be on the high street with a balaclava.
No, I'm not saying. I know Dave's not going to commit a crime. I'm not saying Dave's going to commit a crime. I'm saying making it a circus, like an actual circus.
The way I see it, it don't matter how you're dressed, how you look. Getting that message out there. Is probably the best way forward. Whether you're wearing a balaclava or a pink dress, or I don't think it's clowning it. I think it has putting more humor and classic into it.
But is it bringing humor? I'm all for humor, and I like funny shit, right? But when you're dealing with an alleged serial rapist, is it good to put icing on that, to make that more sweeter than what it is?
I think that's just the classicness of Dave all over. Even if they all went dressed in a suit, that would be overdressed for the occasion, I think.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's sort of like they know people are going to watch, so they may as well make a spectacle of it while people watch, because at the end of the day, this has been a very dark year. I'm not going to lie to you, Steve. It's been one of the darkest years I've ever had in regards, like, actually this year hasn't been too bad for me. Started this YouTube channel and stuff, but in regards to people on YouTube, it's been one of the darkest years. Like, finding out that, listen, I'm just going to say it, I don't give a fuck anymore. If anybody has a problem with it, go fuck yourselves. Like, just go fuck yourselves. But do you know what I mean? Like, I do believe that a vast majority, or maybe a minority, not going to say a vast majority, I'm going to say a minority of them, but still is a lot of people on that side of YouTube are wrong-uns, mate. I'm not talking about Dodgy Dave. I'm not talking about Motorsports and Buggies. I'm not speaking about Humble. I'm not speaking about Film Boy. I'm not speaking about any of them, the big channels. I'm not speaking about them. But I'm looking at people that are coming on to YouTube, and I'm thinking to myself, all of you fucks are wrong-uns. And a lot of yous are...
look how many accounts. They got funny names to them. Don't ever show their face. Don't ever go on a panel. Don't ever produce a video. But, they hide behind some funny name on a YouTube account and just spit spite.
And even
Now, they're the ones I would aim it at. That's the one I'd aim it at. That wrong.
I also have to put in. I know DG Backup and Fighting Irish. I know they're not wrong-uns too, so I have to put them. I'm thinking of anybody that I speak to, that I get on with on YouTube. If I've missed yous out, yous know that I'm not talking about yous, just in case there's somebody going, fuck, I'm not a wrong, and he's talking. No, I'm talking about people I'm looking at that are coming onto the scene. And some past people, I'm thinking to myself, this place is full of them. This is really, really full of them. But I get, though, with Dickie, right? With Dickie, it's like he's a once-in-a-lifetime alleged predator, because this guy has an MO of everything. He has fraudulent behavior. He has
coercive behavior,
violence, domestic abuse, sexual criminality. I don't even get how this guy has supporters. This is proof, Steve, that people can still get away with shit in this day and age.
There's There's so much information out there now. North, south, east and west. You know, because Dodgy Dave and Exposure and Humble and Motorsports, you know, they've made sure that north, south, east and west, the information's out there. I just don't understand why and how he's still got the supporters either. You know,
ask yourself this. Ask yourself this. Anybody watching this right now, ask yourself this. If the same thing was being said about Mark Feely, would you believe it or would you not believe it? Because if you would believe it, then you've come into this situation in an unbiased manner, and you're only judging on how a person looks. I know plenty of guys out there, right? I'm no oil painting. I'm definitely not an oil painting, but I know guys out there, right, that are die-hard working men for their family and their kids, right? And they're not the best of looking men. And if something was said about them, people would believe it like that. But because there's a guy here that spends all day looking after himself, getting Botox and working out in the gym, which is okay. You can do that if you want to do it. I know there's plenty of people out there who do that and they're not wrong uns. But because he looks the way he looks and because he acts the way he acts, people give him a pass. But if this was Mark Feely, and if you're listening to this and you're in two minds whether what way to go about this, or maybe you're a full-on supporter, know this: we are no trolls. We back this guy also. We thought this person was 100% innocent, and we try to help this person, and we got this thrown back on our face, right? And we asked questions to the other side too. If this was Mark Feely, would you believe it? If the same things were being said about Mark Feely, and I'm 99% sure that most of you would say yes, there's not much difference here. There's what's been said about Mark Feely than there is in regards to this other individual. But there is one difference. One guy is, looks better than the other, and that is the difference. And unfortunately, that's the world that we live
I
in.
think why these people are still supporting him is because they've basically been manipulated. Where Decker will tell a lie, you know, they're going to believe it. You know, when you got supporters, you know, I was there for myself as well last year.
Yeah, talk about it, Steve, because you were. Listen, I was manipulated for 2 months.
You know, I came out of nowhere, and you know, I've seen this guy getting trolled by these people. I'll say now, but it wasn't trolling, right? But back then, I saw it as trolling, and I thought, hold on a minute, you know, this guy's getting hassle here, and you know, to the point, you know, he might commit suicide. And there were so many people, you know, that was telling me and, you know, explaining to me, and I just wouldn't listen. Now, that was a prime example of how his supporters are right now this second. The only difference is I woke up, you know, and when I've seen so much evidence out there being shown to me and told to me, you know, I was still sat there thinking, nah, no way. You know, this guy here would tell me if he was, you know, accused of anything. You know, and he kept saying to me, no, I ain't even got no NFAs, and you know, this is so. I then decided to have a look for the evidence myself. You know, I stepped back and I thought, hold on a minute, not all of these people that are coming up and having a go at me for defending him are wrong. You know, and I decided then to look for the evidence myself, even though they were shoving it under my nose and in my face. I decided to look for it myself, and then when I found the phone call between him and his mum, you know, that was it for me then. My mind had no choice but to be made up. You know, that what I heard was more than sufficient enough for me to say, hold on a minute, this guy's fucking a wrong one. You know, this guy's done something, and all these people that shoving evidence underneath my nose daily and, you know, shouting at me and, you know, pushing me into making a decision. You know, they had to realise within myself I would have to find it myself. You know, I'm not going to be coerced into just changing because they're telling me. You know, it took for me to get into my own thick skull, you know, right from wrong. And it was from that point that I thought, hold on a minute, you know, these guys ain't wrong. You know, every word that these guys have been...
Steve, clarify something for me. Clarify something for me, right? Because people need to know this, right? People need to understand the mind frame we had. So back whenever I actually believed them, just say a month in, right? Roughly, because I started even questioning a month in, right? Me and you got in contact with each other. And off the bat, Steve, see when me and you had private conversations away from him, you used to come to me, right? And I used to laugh after the phone calls. You used to come to me and used to say, I remember the first thing you said to me is, do you think Dickie's innocent? And I said to you, I don't know. Don't be backing him because you don't know. Do your own thing. Stay away from it. Don't be talking about stuff that you don't realize. And you knew that I was speaking to him, but I wasn't double crossing him. I wasn't being a rat. I was just seeing how this played out because I wanted to see what would materialize in regards to paperwork. I was waiting for the big exposure, right? And whenever I seen the exposure, I'm not going to lie, I blew a bit of smoke up his ass. It says, look, Dickie, the exposure's good. But I didn't realize that what he done was when he got his exposure out, it made all these people's faces out in the public and they had nothing to lose anymore. John came online and he went full tilt. Dave wasn't in the exposure, but Dave realized after the exposure what was going on whenever he was, you know, Dave was sort of in contact with him then. And you came to me and you were sending me stuff on WhatsApp. And the worst thing Dickie ever done was get you and me connected with each other. Because what happened then was I was solidifying in your brain that there was doubt. When you were thinking to yourself, fuck, if you had some questions to ask, you would go to him. He would manipulate you. Whenever he was talking to me, I was going, yeah. No sweat, mate. No sweat. Just prove your innocence. Just show the paperwork and you'll be fine. But whenever you were coming to me, I was saying, don't do this, Steve. Don't do that, Steve. This is bad, Steve. This could go horribly wrong. We don't know. And then there was moments where we were speaking and we were going, fuck yeah, he's innocent because that proves he's innocent. But as soon as everything came on top of us and we realized that, oh, we've watched this, and this. And if this was being said about anybody else, they'd be a wrong'un. That's whenever we realized.
Whenever I had like a doubt on on some things, and I do remember coming to you and asking you some questions on findings that I had found. Like take for argument's sake, when I first found that video of the conversation with his mum.
You came to me.
I remember I came to you and asked you what your opinion was, but I think at that point you hadn't watched the video. I mean, after we spoke, when you did watch that video, I mean, you know, I'd never say to you back then, oh, he's innocent, blah 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 blah. But you wouldn't say to me, oh, he's innocent, blah blah blah. You know, we both had our own mindsets, and I think we both found our own path.
He tried to isolate. I could see it. He tries to isolate some people, and like for instance, coming up to the podcast, that I done with, he said to me, I have to call a spade here, right? He never deterred me away from watching any other channels. He never says, don't watch this, don't watch that, don't watch this, don't watch that. But if I did find out something and I came to him about that, he had an answer for it. It's like he had a rehearsed answer for it. So for the people that have heard that rehearsed answer time and time again, I'm only hearing this for the first time. And then he's telling me, ask me any question. Now, lo and behold, the only question that actually mattered was the subject access request ACRO. Now, you give me, I'm going to ask you this, Steve. Were you afraid to ask him this privately? Because you knew about the subject access request. You were in contact with Dickie, but you came to me and says, ask him for this on the podcast live. Or did you see that as a good opportunity to put him on the spot? Or were you, and just be honest, there's nothing wrong with honesty, Steve. Were you maybe a wee bit intimidated to come to him behind the scenes and say, here, mate, what about this subject access request?
No, I've never felt intimidated at any stage in that, because I knew he had nothing on me, because I was just a straight person, so he didn't have anything on me, so I couldn't approach him. I could have approached him behind the scenes and said, look, you need to get on and, produce your ACRO. But it would have been worth nothing behind the scenes, because nobody would have seen that I have said that to him.
But what does it matter?
Then when the opportunity came, I thought, hold on a minute, I'll enlighten Ronan as to what an ACRO is. And then if you wanted to put it to him, you would have an understanding of what an ACRO is. So if he then tried to give you some other dodgy sort of paperwork, you'd know for yourself what an ACRO actually looked like, and the information that would be on an ACRO. I mean, I didn't have any thought in my mind to say, oh, I know, the best one for the job for this would be him or him or him. I think it was just at that time.
And I have to debunk a conspiracy theory, right? Because I had a couple of comments a while back that says Steve Clark gave you the ACRO because he thought that it was just a police certificate ACRO. No. Steve Clark came to me and showed me his subject access request and said, ask for the ACRO that shows allegations and convictions. He just didn't know the correct term for it. And later on, Karma Corner would, and yes, I have to actually implement Karma Corner into not being a wrong one too. Jesus, I keep forgetting these people. Because it says about all the channels not wrong ones. Karma Corner too. I know Karma's not a wrong one. But Karma Corner would then go on and research and come out with the subject access request. But what you asked me to ask him for was a ACRO that shows allegations and convictions. And guess what? Looking back in that podcast, he admitted to having those allegations, because I just watched it there last week. And he says on the podcast, I have them allegations, but what good will this do? Because this will never end. So he's admitted to having these.
See, now with me, he kept saying to me, oh, it's all bullshit, it's all lies, I haven't got no NFAs, and and that's what he was putting across to me. Well, I think the more that he was actually saying this to me, the more I was getting a little bit suspicious, because each time back then, there was each day, each hour, there was different little pieces of evidence that was, getting sifted. And then when you've got one devil in your ear there's always going to be the angel, in that ear. So there's him saying to me, oh, there's nothing on my record, blah, 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 blah. And then the angel's on that side saying to me, hold on a minute, Steve, you're not stupid. Open your eyes, right? It's a puzzle in front of you. All you got to do is put the pieces together.
Why did you get it so hard?
Because
people came to me and says to me that you were trolling people. And I'm going to say this, right? I'm going to say this. And I hope people don't take offense to this, right? Steve, see if you did, mate, right? See if you did do that. You're a bollocks. But you're not a bloody sex offender, right? There's redemption in that. There's redemption to say, I was wrong, I shouldn't have done that. But All I'm saying to you
I
is,
think that was the extent.
why were people targeting you, saying the most nastiest, horrible stuff about you and Gary Crank? I have to let me actually say this here, Steve. I could. You're a big lad. You'd probably batter the life out of me, right? And I don't mean this in a bad way. I wouldn't actually physically hurt you at all, right? Because I think highly of you. But sort of jokingly speaking, right? Whenever you done that podcast with Gary Crime Scene NE on Dickie's channel, I could have battered you. Because I remember speaking to you the day before going, mate. And then there was another podcast you done on the Real Honest Truth, Bobby's channel. And we were speaking the day before that. And I was thinking, I'm saying to him, do not back this guy. This could possibly go wrong for you. Was he still manipulating you in those scenarios? Like, was his manipulation that bad on you that anything else anybody was saying to you at the time was just going in one ear and out the other, and then you were just going on these channels to back him?
See, I think to answer that correctly, that just showed you my loyalness to an individual. Now, you know, back then, I back all the way back then, you know, when I started, you know, supporting Decker and backing him, that was the extent of my loyalness within myself that was coming out, because some of the stuff that I was saying to some people, that was all attacking Decker. I mean, it was disgusting. It weren't me, you know, but that was the sort of extent I went to defend him. Now, that was all off my own back. You know, he never told me what to do, or, you know, there might have been once or twice where he might have said, troll this person. But I wasn't a puppet. He weren't controlling me. I was controlling myself.
But do you think
This is why so many people hated me. Because of the extent that I then went as the actions of what a troll would, you know, and the things I was saying to people and the videos I was producing. I mean, for Christ's sake, I mean, I think John's Humble said it himself. You know, I possibly made about 200, you know, videos against him alone.
Do you think, though, Steve? I have to say this. I don't listen. I think a good friend is a friend that says stuff not for what their friend wants to hear, but what their friend needs to hear, right? I think that's what a definition of a good friend is, right? And I think I would have to disagree a tad in regards to him not treating you as a puppet, because I'm not saying that you were a full puppet, like he was texting you every day, do this, do that, but I definitely knew he knew how to pull certain strings with you that would get you going. With me, unfortunately, I'm dead inside. I could say, yeah, mate, no sweat, no bother, sweet. And then forget about you 2 seconds later.
I mean, the more that he was saying to me, you know, the more I was believing him against believing the truth from what these other people were saying to me.
You see, you're technically...
that's the side that he manipulated me on, because he was telling me, you know, how innocent he is, and, you know, but then slowly but surely, you know, I decided, you know, I've got to find... These guys ain't attacking me for no reason. These guys ain't shoving evidence under my nose for no reason. You know, and then that was at that point that I thought, hold on a minute. You know, I need to seek the truth myself. You know,
this is going to sound so bad, Steve, right? I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is going to sound so bad, right? I didn't give a fuck what John Wasson was saying. I didn't give a fuck what Karma Corner was saying. I didn't give a fuck what Anthony Burkett was saying. Paul Ellis, Bobby the Honest Truth. I didn't give one fuck. And this, under the greatest of respects, I care what they say a lot in regards to situations when they're coming out about information. But I don't give a fuck what anybody says, because I look at a man and I only judge Dickie on one thing: how he was going to prove to me, his potential co-host, was he an innocent man or not? And that man done nothing but prove to me that he was guilty of these things, right? And I do believe he knew how to play people. Because people come to me after the fact and went, "Did he get you the troll?" I go, "No, fuck. If he had asked me the troll, I would have made a video fucking telling him to go fuck himself." But I think he knew. I think he's a master manipulator. I think he knew how to play you, and he knew not that I'm not bigging myself up here, by the way, right? Because I backed him. I backed him just like you. I thought it was a trolling campaign. But when it comes to the manipulation game, when it came to backing people, I would, for instance, at the time of the podcast, the Karma Corners were in the live chat. I became friends during that time with a girl called Carrie King, who was who hated me for backing Dickie, but me and her actually became friends in that moment. So I was never at the point where anybody that's saying anything bad about Dickie is a wrong'un or a troll. I actually says, well, hold on. Not all of these people are trolls. Like even Bobby the Honest Truth. You know, when it came down to it, right? When it came down to it, he knew how to play certain people's personalities, and that is a trick that is learned.
I think maybe I fell into that, and that's where we could see my lowness.
Mate, I see it in you. I see it in you.
I think he used that to his advantage.
Do you know why I see it in you, right? Because, and I don't mean this in a bad way, right? Because this is listen, we speak the truth here, right? And it doesn't matter if you turn around and say, Ronan, I disagree, because you've disagreed with a few things that I've said and behind the scenes, and you can disagree. You can tell me that I'm wrong anytime here. It doesn't matter. I respect that. I respect people challenging me, right? But I could imagine, right? You're a loyal friend, and I could imagine, because I said something to you today behind the scenes, we'll not talk about it, about a certain individual that was doing a bit of trolling with me. And instantly, you got on the attack. And I could turn around to you and I could say to you, Steve, let's get this bastard. And you would probably be game for that. Because, and another thing you said to me, family means everything to you and friendship means everything to you. So if them things mean something to you, a manipulator will home in on that and go, well, he'll do anything for me if I just treat him like a friend. If I just treat him like family, this guy will lay it all out for me and be a warrior for me. Now, that could be a good.
To be honest, that's where he used that, and I.
Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%.
And I was too blind. I didn't see that. But the second that my mind, the angel flew on my shoulder and said, "Step back, and look for the proof. Yourself, to prove that he's a wrong 'un." That angel spoke in my mind, and that was the best day of my life, because not only had by then I had upset loads of people, with my actions, which I'm ashamed of.
Yeah, listen, you don't even have to keep saying you're ashamed of it. Fuck it, it is what it is.
Some of them now have turned out to be a friend.
Yeah, listen,
or kind of a friend now, but I felt ashamed of myself that I didn't see the manipulation, that he was like putting on me. I didn't see it, so for that I felt ashamed of myself. But when the angel landed on my shoulder, I knew that was the time to use, to prove that what he's been doing is manipulating me. He's lied, and he hasn't told the truth. He was still saying to me at that point, he's still got no NFAs, but like you rightfully said, on your podcast, he admitted to having NFAs. Even after that point, he was still lying to me. But for me then it was too late, because I'd already seeked so much information, to prove him to be lying. And then the phone call came up. I seeked out the phone call, and played it over and over and over, and then that was it for me. I thought, fuck, do you know what? I've been the biggest prick in the fucking world, by actually falling for his fucking lies and manipulation.
a good friend.
Yep, and it was at that point then that I thought, it's too late now. I've upset too many people, and it was then only beginning of the year, that I thought, well, I need to right some wrongs with everybody, that I'd upset, and I went through the list, and I gave out the apologies to the people, that I needed to apologise to.
And I have to say this: a good friend will say to you, "Don't back me. You don't need to back me." I'll always say this to anybody, right? Especially on YouTube, and I'll say this to you now, Steve, right? That see if anybody's saying anything bad about me, and it's lies. Lies don't gain traction. Don't say anything. See, every time on YouTube somebody's told lies about me, it came back to bite them in the ass. Karma is a real thing. So anybody that's saying, yeah, do this for me, do that for me, or putting you in situations that are maybe hurting you, that's not a good friend. Good friends don't do that. And I want to talk about another thing, right?
See, to be honest, like, he took two months out of my life that I could have spent with my wife. That's why I then decided to come off and take time away, and concentrate on my wife. And then I made a promise to somebody, I was never going to open up another account. And the day came that I thought, you know what, I'm ready now to, show the world the real true me.
Mate, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you. I had conversations with people that knew you. I'm not going to come out and listen. It has to be said. I'm about honesty. I didn't know what to think, because I knew you were a good guy. I knew that your heart was in the right place. But I thought to myself, he went offline and I give you that space, but I always kept that contact. And I always said to you, make another account, come back on the YouTube. It's better with you on YouTube. I prefer it when you're on YouTube. It's good. We can make content together. I know that you're not a bad guy. But then speaking to the people behind the scenes that you were having trouble with, we're not going to get into that. It's none of my business. I was thinking to myself, is he working for Decca behind the scenes? Is he doing this? And then whenever you came back online and I was speaking to you, it became apparent to me that the situation that Dickie had put you throughout those months, and the trolling and the negativity, mate, that affected you bad. And it was nothing to do with you taking time and you were working behind the scenes. You were radio silent. You didn't want anything to do with YouTube. And it took you months to sort of recover from that, to get yourself back on here, to make a channel. And we spoke a wee bit, and I coaxed you to come back on. It says, mate, you need to make a channel. Don't let some cunt fucking ruin your life on YouTube. YouTube can be a really good tool to make friends, to talk about different topics. You don't have to talk about all the non-shit. Come on here, talk about mad shit with me. It doesn't matter if we get 20 views or we get 20 million views. It doesn't make a difference. It's about just having the crack, having a banter, and staying away from all those wrongings. And I said to you again, mate, don't be anybody's puppet. See, just like you were, Dickie manipulated you. Don't let anybody else manipulate you, mate. You're a good soul. You try to help people. Generally, you try to help people, and you like people to sort of, you like to be around people that are doing something like a movement. But don't let anybody else do that shit to you. It doesn't matter if it's for a good cause or a bad cause. You're your own man, and fuck everybody else.
That's why I needed to take that time away and take that time out. But then I decided, it's the right time for me to open up a new channel, to prove to everybody I'd changed. And I was just simply going to go on my own track, and I've stuck to my own track. I've produced some excellent content out there, had a couple of interviews under my belt with people. And slowly but surely, people are coming back around, because they're seeing it's the real me. They're seeing that, I've stuck to my word. I'm not getting involved with any drama, and I'm just out to create my own content. So be it if I get three views or 10 views. Like yourself, I've set myself a target of 2 years to produce the content that I have been producing, you know, and hopefully in 2 years' time, my channel would have grown twice the size of what it is now. But it's basically shown the world who the true Steve is, and this is the true Steve that has come out over the past 2 months with my new channel. And you know, this is me as a human being, and not under anybody's spell, not being manipulated by nobody, getting involved in no one's drama, creating no more drama, you know, and just doing happy, decent content. And like I say, slowly but surely, people are realizing now, you know, that this is the real side of me. And slowly but surely, you know, they're coming around and congratulating me on the content I'm producing, and it makes me feel, 100% happier, you know, that these people, you know, are actually supporting the work that I'm doing. You know, it's
Yeah, mate,
amazing, and I know I've still got a mountain to climb yet, but
yeah.
I'm just going to carry
Listen,
on the way that I'm going.
you just have to do what you do. Fuck everybody else. Do what you do. YouTube is YouTube. Reality is reality. Fuck everybody that's going to put you down. Take it in the chin. If you do something wrong, own it. If you do something right, take the gratification from it. But fuck everybody else, essentially.